Welcome and thank you for joining us. My name is Christopher Henson and I've partnered with the Cooperative Extension Service, part of the University of Arkansas System Division of Agriculture. And with my culinary skills, we're here to present knife skills. "20 years of culinary experience has allowed me to use pretty much all of these knives. We have several here out in front of us. We're not going to go through all of them, but I think it's important that we learn a few key terms with the knives. One, how to hold them, how to choose them for the right tools so that you can be more productive at home, be a little bit more confident in your abilities. And the whole purpose of partnering with the Cooperative Extension Service was so that we could bring these skills to the homes so that you can eat better and healthier in your home. So we got a paring knife. We have a few different chef knives here, different lengths for their blades. We have a butcher knife, a boning knife, a bread knife, and then a Santoku, which is my favorite, and I'll go over that here in a second. And then some variety of items that I would imagine most of us probably see in our homes. But I'm going to start with the paring knife first. The smallest knife that I brought today, probably the smallest knife that you would see in a common household kitchen. We're going to go over some anatomy that we would see on any other knife. So I'm going to start here. We have the tip, which is the very end of it, usually the sharpest or the pointiest part of the knife blade. We have the spine, then we have the heel back here, the bolster, and I'm going to talk about that here in just a second, the tang or the handle, and then the butt of the knife. And again, it's the same anatomy on all of them, but I really want to point out a couple of things for quality knives. You notice how the spine runs all the way through the tang or the handle of the knife, and then the rivets holding that together. Good quality knife here, a little bit more costly, but durable. Definitely something you want to consider, especially if you use it a lot. Some of the cheaper knives, the blades actually stop pretty soon into the tang or the handle of the knife. But when we talk about holding a knife, for most of the jobs and most of the knives that you're going to be using in your household, I'm going to take my thumb and my index finger. I'm going to pinch at the bolster. Okay, I'm going to pinch right here at the bolster of the knife that we talked about earlier. Remember, here's the heel, here's the bolster, the spine, and then I'm going to wrap these three free fingers and just kind of cradle the handle. I'm not gripping it. You can see I'm really, all the pressure that I have on this knife when I'm going to use it is going to be right here. And then I'm just wrapping my fingers around to secure the knife so that it doesn't roll around. In my fingers. And of course, if your hands are wet or the tang or the handle is wet, that could also increase slippage. But again, I'm still gripping it here. Peeling potatoes, apples. I can mince small amounts of garlic with this. I can core a tomato. It's also used for creating garnishes for plates. Making a tomato rose or an apple peel rose. There's a lot of other techniques that you can use, but this would be a knife for smaller tasks, smaller projects. So here we have our peeled garlic and the paring knife, and here I'm going to cut the end of it off a little bit where the garlic was growing, and I'm just making small cuts. I also want to make an opportunity to show you we really want to keep our fingers out of the way of the blade when we're cutting. We don't want to lose the ends of our fingers. We want to make sure that we have a good hold of whatever it is that we're cutting up. And here we're I'm pulling my fingers away from it while I'm pushing this just so that we can mince this garlic up. This is not, we use a lot more garlic than this at home, so I typically would not choose a paring knife to do this. I would choose a chef knife, and I will show you that one here in a second. But we probably could chop that up a little bit more to get the minced cut that we're looking for, but that's what we would use a paring knife for. We can peel potatoes, we can peel apples. I'm going to cut up a couple of these other things. We could also use it to core the middle of a tomato with the paring knife. Again, it's just, this is meant to do smaller tasks, okay? Our next knife that we have available is the chef knife, and I have 3 different versions here. These two are very similar in length, and that's usually the difference with the chef knife, are the length of the blades. Again, probably the most versatile knife in here, next to the Santoku, which we'll talk about in a second. The knife can be used for cutting, chopping, mincing, dicing, julienne. But again, the anatomy is pretty much the same. You can see the spine and how it runs all the way through the tang of the knives. These are good, durable knives. Here you can't see the spine run all the way through, but I can assure you Cisco does provide quality knives. This handle is textured. This one was custom made. It is slippery. It's an epoxy handle, which I'm not fond of, but I do like the knife. But then this is probably the most common one. This is the one that I would use in the kitchen the most. And again, just like the paring knife, I'm going to pinch it right here at the bolster. Okay, my finger and my thumb and my index finger, I'm going to pinch. And then I'm just going to cradle the tang or the handle in the remaining 3 fingers here, which allows me to control the blade from folding on us. We definitely don't want it to fold towards us. We don't want to fold it away from us. Gives us uneven cuts. We want to be able to rock that knife and make smooth cuts so that the blade comes all the way down to the cutting board from basically the tip of the knife all the way down pretty close to the heel. This usually isn't very sharp down here, but we want to be able to use that entire blade for cutting surface, and we can control the knife much better when we have, that's a pivotal point right here. You can see I still have a control over it, but as you can see, it moves pretty well. Let the knife work for you. If it needs to be sharp, I don't want to put added pressure on it if I don't have to. That can increase the chances of injury. But ultimately, the versatile knife here, the chef knife, one of my favorites, probably the most common that you would see out of any knife set. Again, really what changes is the quality of knife, how it's made, and then the blade length. But if we were going to chop a potato, I would cut it in half. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and do some julienne type cuts. I'm making sure that my fingers are out of the way. We want to make sure that our knives are sharp as well. That's probably the worst thing that you could have in your kitchen is a dull knife. You have to apply more pressure, and then it could roll and slip, and it just doesn't. It's just not an ideal tool to have in your kitchen. Make sure these are always sharp. Another tip that I always try to share with folks is when you're done with the knife, please don't put it in the dishwasher. It bounces around. I would immediately try to wash and sanitize, dry it, and put it away in a safe place in your kitchen somewhere where your children can't get a hold of it. This is what we call julienne style. Basically looks like a French fry, even cuts, uniform, and then if we needed to, we could turn back around and really just kind of go back through, and you can see I'm moving in from a julienne cut to more of a diced. And again, a lot more uniform. This is not I don't think in our homes anybody's going to grade you on how uniform your cuts are, but a chopped would be just chopping it up. If I was to take it and make irregular cuts on it, I'm chopping this, and as you can see, there's a big difference in the size. There's no uniform to it, so that's what if a recipe calls for chopped, that's pretty much what they're looking for. And here's the diced versus, or the diced versus the minced. But we got julienne prior to that. This is our slicing knife, which is the biggest knife that you would find in the kitchen. Much longer blade than any of the other ones, usually very sharp. I've used it to cut lettuce with because it's a much larger product, and I can get pretty thin cuts with this. But this is mostly used to cut meats, cooked or raw. Butchers probably use this one when they're cutting fillets or ribeyes if they don't use their chef knife. But again, very uniform blade here, usually very sharp. But this you can use. Again, I've got my fingers out of the way, got more of a claw kind of, and the whole purpose of using the claw motion is that so that the blade can rest up against it so that you can get even cuts. But I'm really just going to kind of, I mean, it's a slicing knife. That's what it's used for. I'm not really exciting about this, but I think it was important that people see this knife and what it's used for, but not very often. The next one is what we call a serrated or a bread knife. Looks much different. This one, again, I still have a habit of just grabbing my knives right here to control them. This would be one of those where I could bring it back and hold on to the handle because I'm doing a sawing motion. It's a knife that I do like to use, especially when I can slice tomatoes with it very well. But what this knife is really made for, and this knife is made for cutting bread, especially soft breads. That was pretty easy, right? If I took a chef knife, I would have to smash down on it, which could interfere with presentation. But this is the serrated knife. Again, I don't have to put pressure on it. Acts more like a saw. I would not, you could use it on a couple other things. I like using this one to break down a pineapple or a melon because I don't have to put as much pressure. I can saw with it. But this would be our bread knife, again with multiple uses. After that, we have a butcher's knife. We're not going to use that one today, but I think it's something that we would probably all see in a common kitchen. Very heavy, very durable. Not meant, you could probably dice with this, but it's really meant for really cutting through bones and thicker cuts of meat. More for breaking down items. I can lay this blade down on a chicken breast and hit the back of the spine and split that chicken open so that I can break it down into all the symmetrical components that a chicken breast has or a chicken has. But again, you can see spine running through the bolster. Good quality knife here. Again, I don't use that one very often because I'm not in that capacity anymore, but boning knife, very thin blade, very durable. Again, this might be one of those where I might bring my hands back because I am going to be running the knife next to the bone to remove the flesh, hence why it's called a boning knife. Some boning knives are a little bit more flexible to allow some curvature around some of the bone, the skeletal muscle of the animal that you're trying to break down. Again, could have some multiple uses. Santoku, probably my favorite. Very similar to a chef knife. Again, 8 inches blade here, 7-8 inch blade. As you can see, compared to the other chef knives, the blade is consistently wider as you approach the tip or the point of the knife. But its blade allows you to scoop more product. Again, we're holding it. This would be one that I always hold, pinching the bolster, cradling the tang in my last 3 fingers, and because of the much broader blade, I'm again still able to accomplish a larger surface area, cutting surface area. I can put more product in there, and then because of that blade, I'm able to scoop and transfer it, a lot more of it, much easier. But probably something that you would see most often, chefs like this one versus the chef knife. So we've sliced the tomato. Now I'm gonna grab my Santoku, and if I wanted to, I've already got them sliced. Great, nobody wants a sliced tomato on their hamburgers tonight, so we're gonna take what's left over, and I'm gonna dice these up. So I've got my fingers here that I'm going to turn into, I'm gonna bring the tips of my fingers back and allow my knuckles to be my guard. And here I am, I'm just going to make nice even cuts. If you notice, I'm pinching that bolster portion of the knife. And I'm not holding it like this. Okay, that would be very, very seldom would you ever need to do that. And I'm not holding it like this. Sometimes I've seen where people hold it this way, and I think you can lose control of your knife. So we pinch it here, and this is where pretty much the force that we have holding onto it. This will help reduce slippage because I've got a hold of that blade. It's not going to roll in my hand if my hand is wet or the tang is wet and slippery. But I'm just making nice smooth cuts. Basically julienne the tomato. I'm going to turn them sideways. And now we have diced tomatoes to go along with our diced potatoes. Not a combination that we'd probably see very often, but definitely just again showing you how to use the knife to improve your abilities at home and maybe open up some opportunities for you to try new foods. Again, the potato, here I am. But as you can see, a sharp knife is very helpful when we talk about breaking down these foods. So we've covered julienne, we've covered chopped, diced, and minced on a variety of different common household items. We've chose 5 different knives that we've used here today, hopefully providing you with some insight so that you're able to be more confident at home, to cook at home and make this an enjoyable moment, reducing the risk of injury, increasing your productivity at home and your yield. We know that that's important, and by keeping you safe. If you have any other questions, please reach out to your local cooperative extension agent for any other questions or concerns you may have. Thanks for joining us. Have a good day.